Spyfall Part 2 was a blast. Spyfall Part 2 was a lot. Let's start at the end here. Let's assume that this master is a post-Missy master. Let's assume this master is a pre-Missy incarnation of the master. That means the devastation of Gallifrey, which is different than the destruction of Gallifrey, which never actually happened because it's like a painting of a cup of soup or something. The devastation of Gallifrey caused by the Master due to said genocidal Time Lord, learning something really dark about Time Lord history as pertains to the Timeless Child. Yeah, I can see how that would be a big enough reason for the Master to give up on this whole time to stand with the Doctor thing. That's enough to set you back. That's the most charitable reading here. Because otherwise, Chibnall just basically paved over one of the biggest and most poignant character arcs in the show's history for no reason. Still lines up with what we know about the Master/Missy's moral compass, such as it is. Remember, in the Dr. Falls, Missy complains that the Doctor's version of good is not absolute. It's vain and arrogant and sentimental. And we can add another thing to that list after Spyfall Part 2, tone deaf. Now, Doctor Who has always been a show that begs for deeper readings. And Season 11, for understandable reasons, was so straightforward and almost hermetically sealed that it kind of forgot to let us do that. Afraid to tell her new friends where she's from or who she really is. There was a certain didactic inflexibility to the storytelling that sort of went against the nature of Doctor Who, which sometimes made the most boilerplate, middle-of-the-road political messages, racism bad, acceptance good, kind of reductive. And listen, I don't need to see the Daleks in every episode or learn that, like, the Eye of Orion was named after Graham O'Brien, but, like, the B fell off the sign or something. However, this is a big universe, and last year it felt kind of small. Series 12 feels like a conscious reaction to Series 11, which is a very good idea, so long as it's more like The Last Jedi and less like Rise of Skywalker. Series 11 did take us to 1955 Montgomery, Alabama, and the separation of Pakistan from India, adventures the Doctor really hadn't had before. Season 11, segregation bad, Amazon good. Shooting spiders bad, letting spiders suffocate good. She had to confront, time and again, the fact that her desire to do right might have to take a back seat to the greater good. Season full of moments where the Doctor found herself time and again in situations where she can't actually do anything, won't stand up to the bullies, is perfectly willing to buy into whatever system of oppression is going on around her, just as long as everyone says nice things. No, she can't interfere with Rosa Parks. Of course she can't. But my question is, why even put this hero in a situation where the only choice she can make is to not take a stand against the kind of institutional oppression that she fights against all the damn time on other planets? At what point does staying in your lane become complicity in injustice? There's a diverse cast, but the diversity masks the problem at the core of this era. More often than not, it's reactionary. Vaguely progressive point of view, but if you think about it for more than 10 seconds, you realize just how shallow that point of view. Now, Spyfall had an actual point of view about the tech world, the trust that we have in giant corporations, clicking that I accept box, giving away our private information. Yeah, the kind of story everyone's been telling for the last 10 years. I see where this is going. Okay. Now, everyone's been telling that story, but for good reason. Chibnall's no Charlie Brooker, I'll tell you that much. And there are two lines in particular that make me think, oh yeah, I think some thought went into this.
A handful of us will remain sentient in order to supervise, maybe even rebuild.
And
humanity is over.
Humanity is over. Oh boy. So, have you heard the good news about the singularity, boys and girls? The singularity is a hypothetical future moment where technology catches up with the human brain, essentially. When an artificial intelligence is created who becomes self-aware and can do everything we can do and more. According to a lot of really smart people, this is almost an inevitability. And it's either going to be amazing and we live harmoniously side by side, and perhaps within the sentient techno-cloud if we so choose, or we, get wiped out by our evil robot overlords. Well, yeah, those are the two traditional readings, but there is a third one, and it's one of the few things I really liked about this episode. Not that they really did anything with it other than a single line of dialogue, but whatever. The third reading is that the singularity is going to be awesome if you're rich, but not so much if you're not. Cory Doctorow is big on this one. It sort of underpins Down and Out in the Magic Kingdom, and it's the major point of his books Walk Away and The Rapture of the Nerds. The Silicon Valley God Kings will ascend to a glorious techno-future while the rest of us brain-dead schlubs get stuck on a swiftly dying planet. It's kind of like the conspiracy theory that once the apocalypse finally hits, the rich and powerful will get to sneak off to their cozy bunkers to live out their days, leaving the peasants in the dust. It is a very zeitgeisty idea. Yeah, it would make a good Doctor Who story, wouldn't it? Instead, we got frickin' I Bribed the Architect from Curse of the Fatal Death, but, for serious this time.
We're going to die! First of all, you're not gonna die. Second of all, don't talk back to the screens. Obviously, I'm a recording and I can't hear you.
Whatever your deal is, there actually are some interesting ingredients here. The human brain being repurposed as a hard drive, the hacking of the entirety of the computer revolution in order to destroy humanity from within, and as your human villain, Lenny Henry, savoring the slow burning bitterness of a spurned tech geek, willing to destroy humanity because reasons. Maybe some glowy light creatures from another dimension, who have a proper name but I don't care, might invade and something all of human history, blah blah silence, blah blah yada yada, basically the Matrix. Yeah, they're basically manipulating the development of computers throughout history to push things towards a system where humans will feel comfortable sharing all their private information with the tech world. Now, where did that impulse come from? Interesting question, right? Social media is part of it, but what appears to be happening is that people's identities are being matched up with their DNA, and most people in the Western world would have some sort of genetic information stored on a database somewhere, like blood samples, urine samples, and so on and so forth. So while there's a couple of leaps you gotta take here and there, you can just about see how they got there. Chibnall tricked us into thinking he turned the oven on last week, but no. It turns out he just microwaved a Mission Impossible DVD and slathered it with HP sauce. I mean, what in particular is driving Daniel to do this? It looks like he was just trying to destroy humanity because, no one liked him at university? His mom was kind of mean? Why isn't this crowd in the world's smallest TED Talk reacting to this at all? We trust social media too much with our information. Oh, do we? Gosh, because I hadn't heard all about that since 2000 and whatever the frick. Why'd the Doctor implant that, okay, aliens, you can wreak tons of havoc, but you can't actually invade, ha bug? Because the history of computers wouldn't have played out the way it did without the glowy light creatures from another dimension's interference. What are they even called? Kasavins. Yeah, in one ear, not the other, mate. Sorry. Glowy things. Army of Ghosts, too. Anyway, the Doctor's stuck in the weird place and runs into Ada. Miss Lovelace if you're nasty. Yeah. She's the first computer programmer, but she hasn't actually become that yet. And she's related to Byron, and supposedly later this season we're going to get Mary Shelley and the Cybermen, so they're probably setting that up so they can do nothing with it at all, or it's going to be dumb. But anyway, we learn that the glowy light creatures from another dimension act as portals between worlds, and in Ada's case, appear to her as guardian angel types that are also angel portals between worlds. Gah! My head. You know what? Just go with it, because then we're treated to the most fun Doctor Who-ish scene this show has given us in years, man. If the episode has a high point for me, it's this ridiculous steampunk science fair. Yeah, me too. What, really? Oh yeah. No, that scene was badass. I mean, the romanticization of Victoriana is inherently problematic because the yoke of colonialism is still being felt to this day, but sciencey brass things are nifty. Yeah, I love how we're thrown into it like, is this real? Or is this a big metaphysical metaphor dream thing? Or, what's even happening? Grenades for the home! The Doctor is clearly relishing the chance to pull off some good old doctorish tomfoolery.
Jodie is clearly relishing the chance to deliver some dialogue that doesn't suck.
And the Master's entrance is glorious. Now, Sacha Dhawan just dominates the scene as he chews it all up and spits it out. Again, he's shrinking people at random here. Clearly, this is a dude who, unlike previous Masters, this dude just gives no clucks about nothing. This is a truly scary villain because he's that chaotic.
No, honestly, I agree with you like 100%. If we had to completely undermine the Missy arc this quickly with no explanation, no mention, just Chibnall going, "My show now," and erasing one of the most interesting things his predecessor ever did, like he's Trump or something, yeah, I went there. I'm glad they cast Sacha Dhawan. He's really good.
But that kneeling scene, though... Oh, for heaven's sake, no. It's fine. It's fine. No. These two are arch frenemies. It's precisely the kind of thing that other Masters would have done, basically did. I mean, come on. Asking the 13th Doctor to kneel before him is actually way less gross than anything John Sim did to the 10th Doctor. It's way less problematic than everything they did to Bill in World Enough in Time. Look at Jodie's face. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable here. She's only doing this to save everyone's life, but she hates it. We hate watching it. It works dramatically. It's fun.
It really isn't. No, the power dynamic is like way out of whack. It's just plain uncomfortable to watch a man force a woman to kneel before him.
Power dynamic? So wait, the guy who always loses, the woman who always beats his ass, and you're worried about the power dynamic.
Between a male actor and a female actor, yeah, no, it's not okay.
The Master would do that, though.
The show shouldn't have.
But it's not like it's out of character.
It says something unintentional to the audience.
There it is.
I don't follow.
Where's that music coming from?
What music?
Exactly.
You're just making sounds now.
I'm making a diegetic reading of the show, and you're making a non-diegetic one.
Wasn't her grandmother diegetic?
Dude!
What?
Diegetic means things that are taking place within the world of the story, right? Like, in The Sound of Drums, the Master plays Voodoo Child and all the other characters can hear it. But then Murray Gold's score comes in and they can't hear that. Still music, but...
Oh, yeah, no, I get it. Okay, so the Master forcing the Doctor to kneel says one thing within the world of the story, but it says something else to the audience?
Yep. Now, Doctor Who's always had a really weird tension with diegesis versus non-diegesis. I mean, if you take, Warriors of the Deep, right? Diegetically, the Merca is a fearsome creature stalking the halls of that sea base.
Merca sucks.
Non-diegetically, the Merca sucks.
So you're okay with the kneeling scene?
I don't know if I'm okay with it exactly, but I think you can get so caught up in what something might look like to somebody that it gets in the way of telling a good story. Obviously, you got to take the identity of your cast into consideration and sometimes tread sensitively because of it, but the audience, very probably they're also smart enough to know that the Master and the Doctor have a history. So how lightly exactly do you have to tread if they're presenting as different genders now? The thing is, there's not really a solid answer to that question, right? So while I'll admit it's more uncomfortable than it otherwise would be, I'm not sure how worthwhile it is getting that mad about it.
What about the thing that happens later?
Oh, you mean the Nazi thing? Burn this f***ing show to the ground.
Seriously?
Yeah, what the hell, right?
No, who thought that was a good idea?
Well, actually...
No, I see you. You're gonna try to defend it. Dude.
Anyway, then we pop up in Paris, 1943, and we meet Noor Khan.
Who I just fell down a Wikipedia hole reading about, by the way, and damn, she was cool. She was brave and super brave, and she died about a year after this story took place, after spending 10 months in a German prison. So the Doctor's line at the end about how fascism never really wins is actually kind of super poignant, all told. But
Noor's a cable operator with the French Resistance, working for the British Air Force, so she has a Morse code key, which the Doctor uses to signal the Master, who's passing himself off as a Nazi commander now.
Because what shapes those wacky pantomime baddies are! Am I diegesing well enough for you, buddy?
So, the Doctor contacts the Master by tapping out the drumbeat in the Master's head, which doesn't sound like any Morse code signal.
Actually, that's V. That is the letter V. Da is V. That's V in Morse code. I know things.
And they agree to meet at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Where the Master drops a Logopolis reference.
And almost drops the Doctor while dropping tons of exposition and explanation about the glowy light creatures from another dimension. Master's using a perception filter, so he looks, you know...
Not like Sacha Dhawan.
Not like Sacha Dhawan. Yeah, so when the Nazis arrive and the Doctor escapes by shutting it off and revealing him for the non-Aryan person he actually appears to be, it's a bit...
Non-diegetic.
Well, we've arrived.
This should be good.
Okay. Yes. In the world of the show, it's the Master. He's evil. He's killed a lot of people at random, so far be it for us to say, oh no, the poor genocidal maniac is about to get genocided. Right? I mean, especially when you consider that both the Master and the Doctor are aliens who've seen and escaped from plenty of genocidal baddies throughout time and space.
Cancelled.
I mean, this is going to sound tasteless, but diegetically, what's a concentration camp when you've escaped the planet of the Daleks, right? Right. But non-diegetically, though.
Well, what this means is that we, the audience, are watching our hero, the Doctor, who's played by a blonde white woman, sell out a non-white guy to the Nazis. Now, we're well aware that the non-white guy is playing a villain who deserves comeuppance, but we're also aware that Nazis are kind of real.
So how do we put this?
It doesn't bother us that the Doctor chose to do that.
But it does bother us that the show chose to do that, maybe? Actually, no, it kind of does bother me that the Doctor chose to do that. She's never cruel, never cowardly, never unkind.
It was never actually said in the show.
Always trying to make peace, always protects the underdog.
That is from an interview with Terrence Dix. Yo, dude, that's actually kind of my lane.
The point still stands. This is a hero who allegedly stands up to the bullies and hates everything the Nazis stood for. And she's willing to blithely just do this? I mean, I get it, but it does bother me a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, it bothers me more that the show chose to do that.
It's not a competition, dude.
But wait, there's more. Here's the Doctor back in Hell Bent, agonizing over the use of the Mind Wipe. Here's the Doctor in Journey's End, using the Mind Wipe on Donna, but only to save her life. And here's this Doctor, just whipping out the Mind Wipe against the consent of Ada and Nor.
Now look, again, diegetically, wiping out their memories makes sense. You can't have Ada Lovelace going around with foreknowledge of the whole computer revolution there. You know.
Yeah, but it still doesn't make sense with Nor Khan, since she's going to be like dead in a year, and it might have just been nice, as the firing squad was gunning her down in Dachau, to let her meet her maker with the knowledge that the bastards don't win in the end. But either way, it's non-consensual, it's manipulative, and it's inconsistent with what we saw before.
You know, it's kind of funny. There's inconsistencies that you're willing to tolerate, like, oh, well, like, the Earth keeps getting invaded and no one remembers, and even the head of MI6 seems skeptical. Isn't that kind of weird? And there are inconsistencies that you're not willing to let slide. Like the Doctor backtracking on the whole Mind Wipe thing.
Well, everyone forgetting that Earth keeps getting invaded is kind of something you buy into when you start watching this show, right? Like, when it's done correctly, it doesn't make the stakes any less stakey. The Mind Wipe thing is based in a progression of the main character's journey that happened in part because fans had a moral issue with it. And for the show to, like, essentially say, we're not doing that anymore, that kind of sucks.
It's just interesting because the Mind Wipe thing is person to person. It's small scale. It's one person gets their mind wiped. Whereas, how do you think everyone on Earth keeps forgetting that the aliens just invaded?
Oh, don't you bloody dare.
Just saying, man.
Oh, you know, again, this is like the thing with, oh, maybe it's social media, but also it's blood control.
Blood control?
Oh, I've seen blood control in ages.
Well, the Sycorax do in fact rock.
That they do.
Spyfall, all told, was a thoroughly, roaringly entertaining piece of television.
I just wish somebody had taken a step back and looked at the big picture and noticed a couple of something.
But it's definitely the most fun I've had watching an episode since The Doctor Falls. Now, this was a great way to kick off the season.
A plot that holds together marginally better than most of the episodes it's ripping off. Jodie's doctor has some internal conflict now, and it looks good on her. The production team seem to have found a direction they're going to go in, whether or not it's a good one.
There were moments here that rekindled my love of the show.
There were moments here that made me want to turn my television into kindling.
But all in all, the Doctor saved the day.
But all in all, I watched some television, and the actors got paid.
What did you think? Leave a comment below, tell me what you thought about it.
Next week will not be as complicated as this video.